Thank you for watching QTV with the news. My name is Diana Sumbwe. Stories making headlines in our news. President Edgar Lungu has fired Felix Mutati as Minister of Works and Supply. Police have demolished about 37 houses in Lusaka's Mimwood area near Mutumbi Cemetery in pre-dawn raid. And 656 health professionals who sat for the 2018 licensure examinations conducted by the Health Professions Council of Zambia have failed. And now details in our news. President Edgar Lungu has fired Felix Mutati as Minister of Works and Supply and revoked his appointment as nominated Member of Parliament. The head of state has since replaced the former Lunte Member of Parliament with his successor at the constituency, Mutotwe Kafwaya. Zenis reports that President Lungu said there is no need for speculation over the sacking of Mr. Mutati, as he has reserves the discretion to appoint and disappoint in his quest to make a team that he thinks is able to deliver as he sees fit. The president has urged the new minister to work hard and ensure that he contributes to government's efforts of delivering the people. After being sworn in, Mr. Kafwaya says he will focus on building the capacity of the Ministry of Works and Supply to print ballot papers for the 2021 general elections. Mr. Kafwaya says he intends to embark on accessing the state of government's existing infrastructure across the country.
And this is a chance that I'll take very seriously, because it involves supporting not only the Zambian people, but also the president.
Armed police officers have demolished houses belonging to about 37 families in Lusaka's Mimwood residential area near Mutumbi Cemetery in a pre-dawn raid. The police officers are said to have arrived at about 01 hours while the occupants of the houses were fast asleep, banging on doors and windows. One of the affected residents, Jerry Zilundale, has told QTV News that before buying the piece of land, he verified with the Ministry of Lands, whose records indicate that Miss Njovu and her family were the true owners of the land. Mr. Zilundale says the development has taken them by surprise, as no one has ever claimed to be the owner of the piece of land in question. And another affected resident, Derek Simchimba, has crowed foul over the demolition exercise, saying they should have at least been warned before the demolition was carried out. Mr. Simchimba, who is also a retiree, says though life will be difficult for him and his family, in the short while he will live to ensure that justice prevails on the matter. The victims of the demolition have disclosed that they have up to now not been told the reason why their houses have been demolished and who is behind it, as the only thing they know is that it could be a senior politician, as they overheard a police officer talking to someone on the phone he called honorable. A check by the QTV news crew found some of the affected residents salvaging the remains of their buildings.
I acquired the plot genuinely from looking at the documents that I have, and we haven't had any noise or whatsoever to hear that there's somebody claiming for land. Then unfortunately this morning we woke up to a shock when we just found that people came in around 02 to demolish the houses, because this whole plot has about 37 plots, of which maybe over 12 to 15 are now developing, including a church on the middle. So we don't know the person who has sent those people to come and demolish, or giving us any warning or anything to warn.
I was told that the owner of this plot, yes, the owner of this place, who claims to say it's his, when actual fact, you know, we bought this plot quite all right, from the genuine person that we thought was the owner, the rightful owner. Yeah. So, we really don't know. We just found.
656 health professionals who sat for the Health Professionals Council of Zambia September-October 2018 professional licensure examinations have failed. HPCZ Registrar Dr. Aaron Mujajati has told a media briefing that a total of 30 professions were represented in the September-October 2018 examinations, with a number of candidates who attempted being 1,888 collectively, out of which 1,232 cleared, translating into 65% pass rate. Dr. Mujajati says that the 65% pass rate recorded in the September-October exams represents a drop in performance compared to the May-June exams, when a 75% pass rate was recorded. He says the performance of degree and certificate holders was poor compared to diploma holders who performed relatively better. Dr. Mujajati states that 112 medical doctor candidates attempted the exams, of which only 21 passed, representing a 16% pass rate. He adds that out of the 112 doctors who sat for the exams, 103 were foreign trained, while 9 were trained at local institutions. Dr. Mujajati has stressed that only those candidates who have passed the licensure examinations will be registered and issued with practicing certificates, while the rest will be given an opportunity to resit.
Only those candidates who have passed the licensure examination will be registered and issued with practicing license and would be eligible for employment. And I'd like to remind employers through this platform that it is illegal for any employer to employ any health worker who does not possess a valid practicing license, and employers need to desist from doing that. As I conclude, allow me to emphasize that the journey to undergoing licensure examinations can be unpleasant to candidates that do not make it, but bear in mind that the Health Professions Council prime concern is safety for the patient and ultimately for the general public. Quality in healthcare can only be realized if we have qualified, competent, as well as skilled human resource in the health sector. It's not just about numbers. It's about the type of numbers that we have, and qualities is quite essential in that regard. Only those.
Meanwhile, Dr. Mujajati says HPCZ will investigate a matter where a health worker is seen posting pictures of patients who are on antiretroviral drugs to establish what extent the health worker has violated the patient's privacy.
I have not received that information yet, but speaking generally, no health worker is allowed to publish or to violate a patient's privacy in any shape or form. So the Health Professions Council will investigate that matter. Now that you have brought it to our attention, we will look into that matter and see to what extent the health worker violated the patient's privacy. The Council does not tolerate that type of behavior, and the Council will not accept those types of professionals to continue to violate the Code of Ethics. The Code of Ethics exists for a reason. It exists for patient safety, and to the extent that the actions undermine patient safety and undermine the environment in which patients consume health services, the Council will take great interest. And we will look into the matter that you have brought to our attention, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. We have not.
The Transparency International Zambia has bemoaned lack of transparency in the manner Topstar digital migration deal was brokered. TIZ Executive Director Wesley Chibamba says that government should give the people of Zambia details of how the deal was brokered and how it will benefit them. Mr. Chibamba says there is need to remove any suspicion surrounding the deal. Mr. Chibamba has told journalists in Lusaka that the lack of transparency in the manner the deal was brokered is what is causing people to seek more clarification from the government.
I think there are a lot of questions that beg answers around the ZMBC Topstar deal, and we do believe that the government has got a responsibility to tell the people exactly what is going on, what is involved, and how does this benefit the people? They need to explain the extent to which this deal was brokered between these two entities. When it comes to issues of Zafeco also, we do acknowledge that there have been issues to do with lack of transparency in the way certain things have been done, and particularly the way the Mukula tree was being auctioned by that institution. I think there have been a lot of issues. Again, those responsible have got they've got a responsibility to try and make sure that they are being very transparent and open about how all of these issues are being administered. I think there are a lot of
Information and Broadcasting Services Minister Dora Silia says the decision by Times of Zambia to publish some article in Chinese is one way of exploring new market opportunities to raise more revenue to enhance its operations. Ms. Silia has told Parliament in a ministerial statement that the board and management of Times of Zambia in 2015 began to explore various ways to raise resources for the company. Ms. Silia says one of the strategies identified is to attract new business through subscriptions and advertising targeted at the new commercial communities. She says the targeted commercial communities include Turkish, French and Chinese. Ms. Silia says it is this regard that the Times of Zambia board and management decided to translate and reproduce some carefully selected stories of the day in Mandarin. The minister is hopeful that this will explore the paper to potentially new income from a community that would not necessarily be attracted to it because of language barrier. She adds that the alleged discrimination against the people of Zambia by the Times of Zambia newspaper publication of an article in Chinese when there has been no such publication in any local languages does not arise. Speaker of the National Assembly Patrick Matibini has directed the minister to issue a ministerial statement following a point of order raised by Monze Central Member of Parliament Jack Mwimbu.
Like any other state enterprise, the Times of Zambia is expected to generate enough revenue to declare dividends to its shareholders, in this case the people of Zambia. However, as earlier stated, the Times of Zambia has over the years experienced massive financial challenges, including obsolete equipment, overstaffing, and rigid business model in an environment disrupted by new online media. Mr. Speaker, in 2015, the board and management of Times of Zambia began to explore various ways to raise resources for the company. Among the strategies identified was to attract new business through subscriptions and advertising targeted at new commercial communities in Zambia, such as the Turkish, the French-speaking, and the Chinese community. It is in this regard, Mr. Speaker, that the decision to translate and reproduce some carefully selected stories of the day in Mandarin was arrived at. The Times of Zambia hopes this will expose the paper to potentially new income from a community that would not necessarily be attracted to it because of language barrier. Mr. Speaker, there is discrimination against the people of Zambia by the Times of Zambia newspaper's publication of an article in Chinese when there has been no such publication in local languages does not arise. Mr. Speaker, English is the official language of Zambia, the language in which the Times of Zambia newspaper has always been published.
An estimated 674 million people are expected to remain without access to energy by the year 2030, with the majority in sub-Saharan Africa. A report titled Energy Access Outlook from Poverty to Prosperity has revealed. And speaking at the 8th Hydropower for Today Forum, or at COMESA Secretariat in Lusaka, Ministry of Energy Permanent Secretary Brigadier General Imelda Chola says there is need for African countries to take advantage of the falling technology costs to better the lives of the people on the continent. General Chola says it is unfortunate that the African continent is still lagging way behind, despite being endowed with adequate resources needed in the production of electricity. She has also noted the need for African countries to maintain a stable political environment in order to attract investment in hydropower projects.
wish to reiterate the importance of the hydropower resource for the nation of Zambia. Hydropower accounts for more than 84.5% of the installed electricity generation capacity for Zambia. Hydropower drives the economy of our nation. To ensure that security of supply is sustained for the continued economic development of our country, the Zambian government has, over the last few years, taken steps to increase investment in the sector. Some of the projects that the Zambian government has initiated include the construction of the 120 megawatt Iteshi hydropower plant at a cost of $142 million US.
Speaking at the same forum, COMESA Secretary General Chileshe Kapwepwe says the region could have attained higher economic growth had it developed adequate economic infrastructure, including energy infrastructure. Ms. Kapwepwe says because of this inability, the economic growth and development of many COMESA countries remains constrained. She says in order to enhance energy security, accessibility, affordability, and reliability, COMESA has established a number of specialized institutions and adopted the COMESA Model Energy Policy Framework, which has introduced reforms in the energy sector.
The average growth in COMESA region was 6% in 2015. It is important to note that higher economic growth could have been attained had the region developed adequate economic infrastructure, including energy infrastructure. This inadequacy in energy infrastructure remains a major constraint in the economic growth and development of many COMESA countries. The COMESA region is therefore lagging behind in the area of energy. The high cost of operating energy infrastructure facilities and inability to prepare bankable projects continue to be a major impediment to the expansion of many manufacturing sectors in many of our member countries. The situation has been worsened by inadequate level and coverage of physical energy infrastructure due to insufficient investment in the energy sector. The total installed capacity for electric power in the 21 COMESA countries was estimated to be around 70,000 megawatts. The average growth.
And Chinese ambassador to Zambia, Li Ji, says that China is actively engaging to share the experience of hydropower development with the world. Mr. Ji says the Chinese government, through the International Center on Small Hydropower, supports training, hydro project consulting, and construction demonstration projects throughout the world, which have made important contributions to hydropower development in developing countries.
Economy. The economic development of any country in the world is inseparable from the support of electricity. There are many ways to generate electricity. Compared with other ways of power generation, hydropower is the most mature, economic, flexible, clean, and green energy in the world. It plays an important role in global energy supply. The development of hydropower has become an international common understanding. For the African countries, there are unique implications to develop hydropower. First of all, to develop hydropower is an important way to solve electricity shortage in Africa economy.
The 2 days 8th Hydropower for Today Forum, under the theme Hydropower to Promote African Industrial Development, is aimed at exchanging ideas. Minister of Housing and Infrastructure Development Ronald Chitotela has pledged government's commitment to addressing the nation's housing deficit through partnership with the private sector to provide affordable housing to allow middle-income earners Speaking at the Slum Shack Dwellers International SDI Southern African Hub meeting in Lusaka, Mr. Chitotela says Zambia's growing housing deficit, which hovers around 4.3% per annum, has put a stress on government's capacity to provide basic services. Mr. Chitotela has attributed this to the growth and proliferation of informal settlements in cities characterized by tenure insecurity, poor housing and inadequate infrastructure, among others. He has stressed that this has led to the exclusion of some social classes, especially vulnerable groups and the urban poor, from equitability, accessing decent and affordable shelter, as well as basic social services. Mr. Chitotela says the current annual supply of 7,500 housing units does not meet the rising demand, stressing that in order to clear the current backlog, there is need to additionally develop 193,000 housing units per year. He says it is for this reason that government has since set out strategies to provide decent and affordable shelter for all in order to bring about inclusiveness in the development trajectory of the nation. Speaking at the same event, Zambia Homeless and Poor People's Federation representative Veronica Katulushi wants people in peri-urban settlements to be actively involved in various endeavors being undertaken to improve their living standards. Ms. Katulushi has observed the need to view slum dwellers as stakeholders in improving their living conditions. She also called on government to partner with the private sector to develop the communities. Rural Electrification Authority REA Chief Executive Officer Pastor Geoffrey Msonda says about 2,200 households are expected to benefit from the Kasinkunji mini hydro power station project being implemented in Ntambo Chiefdom of Mwinilunga district. Speaking when he toured the mini hydro power project, Pastor Msonda says the power station will operate throughout the year to provide people with power supply once completed. He says the 640 kilowatt project has reached 95% completion and is expected to start supplying power by December 2018. Pastor Msonda says over 70 million kwacha has been spent on the project. He says the catchment area in terms of beneficiaries of the project are schools, a hospital, nursing college, among others. Pastor Msonda is happy with the works done so far on the project. And Leo Lugoi, the project manager from Hank Technology, the company working on the project, says works have reached an advanced stage and expected to be completed by December. Meanwhile, Ntambo Secondary School head teacher Winford Mavu has expressed happiness with the development, which he says will impact positively on the school. Earlier at the same event, Pastor Msonda paid a courtesy call on Chief Ntambo, assuring the traditional leader that the area will next year be connected to power supply. Pastor Msonda says REA will make sure that the hospital in the area is first to be connected to electricity before connecting other facilities. And Chief Tambo expressed gratitude that the area will be connected to electricity supply. He notes that the Kasinkunji mini hydro power station will greatly benefit the chiefdom.
Once we switch it on, it will run and generate power and supply power to a catchment area of about 2,200 households. So I'm sure you've been around, you have seen. It's quite a big community. The catchment area in terms of beneficiaries definitely goes beyond that. We have a number of schools, 2 chiefdoms, hospital, training school, honey processing factory, and the list goes on and on. So those definitely will be the beneficiaries. Now to comment on what I've seen, because I come here to review progress in terms of implementation, I just want to say that I'm very proud of what we have done as the Rural Electrification Authority. I say that because, like I'm saying, I was here from inception. I saw the way the place was. Myself, I'm a trained engineer, not only trained, I've built power stations before, small hydro power station to be specific, so I know what it takes. So I'm very proud of what we have done as an institution, and I want to say also a very big thank you to our 2 contractors, the EPC contractor and the ones that have been supervising them. Because we know we are happy with what the EPC, the main contractor, has done, because the supervisor has been here, has been resident on site, and we've had issues that we have had to resolve. So where we are standing, we are definitely above 95% in terms of completion, and we have spent about over 70 million kwacha. And I also want to emphasize that the 70 million kwacha that we have spent on this project has been funded by the government of the Republic of Zambia 100%. There's been no loan, there's been no grant. Everything, the money that the government gives us, we've been wise enough to take part of that money and invest it in this. That's why I'm saying I'm very proud. And once we switch.
Local Government Minister Vincent Mwale is impressed with the progress in the implementation of the Lusaka City Decongestion Project being undertaken by Afcons Infrastructure Limited of India. The $289 million project, expected to cover 120.7 kilometers of roads, is aimed at redesigning the major road network for Lusaka City with a view of reducing traffic jams, travel time and distances. The project will also see the construction of 4 flyover bridges, 5 junctions and the creation of ring roads, as well as the expansion of roads from 2 lanes to 4 lanes and creation of dedicated bus and public transport lanes. Speaking when he conducted site visits of the project, Mr. Mwale expressed happiness that the contractor is using material mostly sourced locally. We have more in this report.
Driving in some parts of Lusaka can sometimes be a nightmare and an unbearable experience, especially on roads that lead to and from the central business district in the early mornings, the afternoon and in the evenings due to traffic congestion. According to the Lusaka City Council District Planning, any road traffic congestion that happens in the central business district of Lusaka costs around $3.5 to any motorist living in the capital city and is usually caught up in the irritating congestion that normally occurs during rush hour. In an effort to address the congestion challenge, President Edgar Lungu with his counterpart from India commissioned the $289 million Lusaka City Congestion Project in April this year. The 36-month period project is being financed by the Zambian government at 15%, while Exim Bank of India has pumped in 85% of the total project cost. However, according to the contractor, the project is likely to be completed in 2020 instead of the initial 2021. The project, which covers a total of 120.7 kilometer roadworks, is expected to see the rehabilitation and upgrading of 91.4 kilometers of ring roads on Kafue and Greatest roads, 4 flyover bridges, 5 junctions and ring roads, the expansion of some roads from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and the creation of dedicated bus and public transport lanes. Local Government Minister Vincent Mwale, who today toured the project, expressed happiness in the way the contractor, Afcons Infrastructure Limited, is undertaking works since the groundbreaking ceremony. He began his tour from Ibex Hill, where he inspected works on the Lake Mwapona Road, where Afcons Infrastructure Limited project manager gave a brief.
4 flyovers, and out of this 120 kilometer, we have started work in 14.8 kilometer, that is consisting of 7 roads, and 1 flyover we have started, that is McKinney flyover. This one is road number 7. It is Lake Mwapona Road, and the total length is 3.1 kilometer. And we are planning to complete this road by this month end. And we have started 7 roads. That 14.8 kilometer, it is 7 roads, and we have started CNG for another road. And we are planning to complete this road by this month or next month, and we'll start next lot of roads after rainy season is over, because these all roads are at-grade roads. And if you start all the roads, then it will be a bonding there. And we are confident that we will complete this road, all this road and flyovers by 2020 end. Another thing, sir, these flyovers, we have started only 1, and we'll start this balance 3 flyover. First, we have started McKinney, then we'll start Arcade flyover. Then another 2 flyovers we'll start by December or January.
I want you to show me.
The minister's visit of the project ended at McKinney Junction on Kafue Road, where the Indian contractor is building pillars that will hold the flyover bridges.
And so far, I think that I'm impressed with the speed at which they are moving. I am not a technocrat or an engineer to determine the quality of works. I think that those can only be certified by our competent people. But the speed at which they are moving is so far impressive. The works should be done by 2021, but they are telling us they are ready to finish the works by 2020 December, way ahead of schedule. We are going to see 4 flyover bridges that will help us decongest Lusaka and easy, movements. Our roads are getting congested. It's becoming increasingly difficult to do business within Lusaka, and I'm sure all of you somehow are always getting caught up in your appointments because you are late, you're trying to maneuver and so on. We're trying to get around this and make sure that Lusaka is, like any other modern city in Africa. And so we need to plan ahead, and this is what we're doing now.
Mr. Mwale also had this to say regards the 20% subcontraction policy in relation to the project.
Obviously, the ministry working together with the contractor is coming up with a list of, contractors would be selected to work with the main contractor. We want Zambians to, gain experience as they work together with AFCONs. I will allow the contractor at some point to talk about how many Zambians have been employed. But one thing that's pleasing to us is that the contractor had committed that not less than 85% of the labor force is Zambian. This is a commitment that was made, and this is not the case with many other contractors and contracts that we've seen that are implemented by foreign contractors.
The Lusaka City Decongestion Project will result in the saving of time and money by motorists as movement within and through the city will be improved and quickened. Nakaonga reporting for QTV News in Lusaka.
The Movement for National Transformation, MNT, says it disapproves of calls for the dismantlement of the Constitutional Court. MNT President Daniel Shimuza says a constitutional democracy like Zambia needs a constitutional court to interpret and render rulings on the ambiguities in the Republican Constitution. Mr. Shimuza, however, states that his party's concern is on upholding the independence of Constitutional Court from the executive wing of government. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Shimuza says his party is of the view that judges that sit on the Constitutional Court bench should not be appointed by the Republican president. He says this is what the MNT also think will help in reforming and reconstituting Constitutional Court to suit the country's democratic contextual issues. Mr. Shimuza states that the objective of reforming and reconstituting the Constitutional Court in this manner should be about restoring public confidence in the judiciary.
I think that in a constitutional democracy, you need a constitutional court because there will be events and cases that need to be of constitutional nature that the court must deal with. What we are not in agreement with is not necessarily the disbanding, but basically the independence of the Constitutional Court from the executive wing of government. So disbanding, those who are advocating for disbanding the Constitutional Court, I think it's a rather extreme position. We want to be balanced and mature in the way we analyze national issues. And so our view is don't disband the court, reform it and reconstitute it to suit our democratic contextual issues so that then the public confidence in the court should be as it should be in this particular time. Because our constitution is evolving. The Constitutional Court will also need to evolve. And the issues that concern our constitutional democracy must also be, our democracy is also growing and maturity is also coming. We are moving away from an immature democratic state. We are becoming more open and we need more transparency with the court, accountability, transparency, integrity, and the independence. So disbanding is rather, those who are calling for that are basically reactionary and not reasonable. We need reasoning that is balanced insofar as not banning the court, but really reconstituting it and reforming the lacunas and the problems that are existing thereof. I think that
government has been challenged to explain why it is still finding it difficult to enact the Access of Information Bill into law. Civil rights activist Brebna Changala notes that the government has been quick in enacting laws to do with the taxation of the citizens while overlooking the Access to Information Bill. Mr. Changala says this gives an impression that the Patriotic Front government is more interested in making money than preserving the rights of the citizens. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Changala says enacting the Access to Information Bill into law is more cardinal not only to ordinary citizens but also those in government. He says the Patriotic Front government has a chance to ensure that this bill is enacted into law now as opposed to waiting until it is removed from power to start pushing for its enactment.
And I have seen that there is no commitment by this government or indeed the previous governments to act or enact the Access to Information Bill. If you recall, this is a matter that was always on the lips of Honorable Shikapwasha, whose whereabouts are not known today. PF has come into power, is an issue they will never discuss. they will enact at a rocket speed any bill that involves taxing its citizens. To them, that is all they need, money all the time. They never, and they will never rise to the occasion to preserve the rights and obligations of the citizens. And that access to information bill is so important, so cardinal to all of us. And they know it very well.
Government says making financial services inclusive and affordable to all still remains its priority. Minister of Finance Director of Economic Management Irene Musonda Habasimbi says this is in line with achieving many of the Sustainable Development Goals. Mrs. Habasimbi says in view of this, Zambia has been committed to financial inclusion as an active participant of the Alliance for Inclusion. In a speech read for her by her assistant, Messi Mononi, during a validation workshop on promoting women and youth financial inclusion by the Africa Center for Economic Transformation, ACET, in Lusaka, Mrs. Habasimbi says the Bank of Zambia has thus endorsed the Maya Declaration.
In view of this, Zambia has been committed to financial inclusion as an active participant of the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, AFI. And the Bank of Zambia has endorsed the Maya Declaration and pledged to achieve a total of 8 measurable targets. Zambia has made significant progress in building the foundation of an inclusive financial ecosystem and is starting to see an uptake of digital payments in some areas. This process has benefited from concerted government leadership and identification of the barriers that need to be overcome. In November 2017, the government of Zambia launched 2 strategic documents, and I hope we have all seen them. That is the National Financial Sector Development Policy, as well as the National Financial Inclusion Strategy. Especially as we're deliberating on this issue, it's important that actually we cross-reference to these 2 key government documents. So the National Financial Inclusion Strategy is running from 2017 to 2022.
And Africa Insights Managing Director Amit Shagan says the study conducted on the extent of financial inclusion among women and youths in Zambia has revealed some improvements. Mr. Shagan says his firm, which adopted the executive summary from the initial report delivered to ACET in September, used 4 indicators of access, usage, quality, and welfare.
What we are starting to see is that there is more awareness women and youth, which is, I guess, the first step in progress. From a legal and policy standpoint, of course, the Bank of Zambia, the central bank, they have a strategic plan, 2016-2019, and this includes the financial inclusion strategy, as well as various gender mainstream areas. Digital and mobile payments is also part of this national financial switch, which is a key initiative. And of course a focus on rural areas, because this is where financial inclusion is, of course, the least as expected. The national strategy on financial education that ran through to 2017, which is part of the financial.
At the same event, ACET Director of Research John Asaf Ajaye affirmed ACET's mission to support Africa's long-term economic growth through research and advice on issues of economic transformation.
As a think tank, as a think and do tank, our vision is that by 2025, all African countries will drive their own growth and transformation agendas, led by the private sector and supported by capable states with strong institutions, which will help to accelerate economic growth. I just want to add that ASET works with a vast network of outstanding African and non-African experts, while maintaining a small core staff in Accra. So we are very pleased to have such a high participation looking around the room.
The Lusaka City Council has expressed concern over the continued theft of mounted bins in the Central Business District and around Lusaka. Following a cholera outbreak last year, close to 500 waste bins were donated by various institutions to assist in keeping the city clean. Lusaka City Council Public Relations Manager George Shichimba says most bins have recently been vandalized and stolen in the Central Business District and in various communities. Mr. Shichimba tells Q News that the council has received reports that members of the public are using the bins, which are in metal form, to make braziers which they are selling at cheap prices. He has warned of stern action against whoever will be caught stealing or vandalizing the bins. Mr. Shichimba has since appealed to members of the public to help in safeguarding the bins and report any person seen or suspected of vandalizing or stealing the mounted bins.
We have experienced a number of thefts in regards to the bins that were placed. Remember when Lusaka City was cleaned up, there were a number of companies that came on board and donated bins, litter bins, and they were placed all over CBD and other trading areas. But of late, if you go there, you just find the stands. The bins have gone. People from neighboring or surrounding compounds are coming in the night to uproot them and take them. We are told they are using those drums to make bowlers and other things, and so we are appealing to residents to be on the alert that if they see someone carrying what is branded either MTN or Lusaka City Council or anything, a drum for that matter, it means they have stolen a bin. And we want to appeal to those that are involved or engaged in this kind of vice to stop forthwith, because the day they will be caught, they will regret their actions. Those things were placed for public good, not to benefit an individual at all. The individuals that want to benefit from public installations are not being fair to others, because people now don't have where to throw their litter as they shop around in town. And what is happening now is that because people got used to throwing in that bin at that spot, so you are seeing that now they are throwing on the ground just, which is not good at all. We have
Patriot Front Chinsali Member of Parliament Kalalwe Mkosa has applauded the Rural Electrification Authority for intensifying rural electrification. Mr. Mkosa says the program is modernizing the economic and social emancipation of previously marginalized communities. He says his constituency has benefited from electrification projects, citing Kaonga and Chipanga wards and Nkweto village, among other areas. He has told Q News that the electrification of these and other areas will improve the living standards in rural communities. Mr. Mkosa has noted that if electricity is brought to the rural areas, it will enhance creation of job opportunities for the youth. He has bemoaned that the number of youth moving to towns in search of jobs has been worrying. Hence, the electrification of rural areas will play a critical role in discouraging rural-urban migration. Mr. Mkosa has stated that people in rural areas have a right to be connected to electricity to improve their livelihoods.
In your constituency. Thank you so much. Regarding Rural Electrification Authority, in Chinsali, I think from 2016 to date, the areas that have been earmarked for electrification in Chinsali are Kalela area, Mbesuma area, and Musanya area. Those are in, 3 different wards. Kalela is in Itapa ward, Mbesuma is in Chilinda ward, Musanya is in Malalo ward. Then before 2016, we also had other areas in Chinsali that benefited from Rural Electrification Authority. One of those areas is Mundu village or Mundu area in Kaonga ward. Kaonga and Kaonga stroke Chipanga ward. Then we also have Nkweto village. It has benefited from Rural Electrification Authority, and also Kaso area. So those are some of the areas. Now, those are areas where in the past we never dreamt that we are going to have electricity in that area, electricity supplied by ZESCO. So we are very grateful to the government for this development that has been brought to Chinsali. This is a development that us people of Chinsali are going to live to remember because there are projects, landmark projects that we never expected that were going to come, and they have come to Chinsali.
To end the news, we take a look at stories making headlines. President Edgar Lungu has fired Felix Mutati as Minister of Works and Supply. Police have demolished about 37 houses in Lusaka's Mimud area near Mutumbi Cemetery in a pre-dawn raid. And 650 health professionals who sat for the 2018 licensure examinations conducted by the Health Professions Council of Zambia have failed. On that note, we come to the end of the news. From me, Diana Sumbwe. Thank you for watching.